Alrighty, we are live. We are live streaming into many places across the internet. Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. We would love it if you would actually just check and see if the people you've invited on are online right now. If not, then this is your 30-second timer to give you an opportunity to make sure everybody is ready to go. Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. We're just starting today's event now. Now, some people logged on as we're live streaming into 74 different countries don't speak fluent English. With that in mind, we have closed captions you can read along with in the Zoom room live and on playback on YouTube. So have a quick listen to this.
Por favor, vaya a la parte inferior de la pantalla en Zoom o YouTube y haga clic en subtítulos para leer en español.
Kérlek menj a képernyő aljára, a Zoom-on vagy a YouTube-on, a Closed Caption részre, és ott el tudod olvasni magyarul a feliratot.
Silakan klik di layar bawah pada Zoom atau YouTube dan klik caption untuk membaca dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Pour les sous-titres en français, veuillez cliquer au bas de votre écran Zoom ou YouTube sur CC ou Closed Captions.
Zoom または YouTube の画面の下部に移動し、字幕をクリックして日本語で読んでください。
請到屏幕底部點閱隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
Παρακαλώ πηγαίνετε στο κάτω μέρος της οθόνης, στο Zoom ή στο YouTube και κάντε κλικ στους υπότιτλους για να τα διαβάσετε στα ελληνικά.
請到屏幕底部點擊隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
אנא עברו לתחתית המסך בזום וביוטיוב ולחצו על תרגום לכתוביות בעברית.
Proszę zejść na dół ekranu na Zoomie lub YouTubie i kliknąć napisy, żeby przeczytać po polsku.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome online. It's my pleasure to introduce our MC today. James Lewis is one of the founding members of Numi, who was around from day one. In fact, their team hit diamond in about 48 hours, which is exciting. So today, your MC will be James, all the way from Georgia. Over to you, James.
Thank you, Michael. Michael said, this is James Lewis. I'm from the Savannah, Georgia area, greater Savannah, Georgia area. And it's great to see all these people joining us. I see Boca Raton, Florida, Indonesia. Don't know what time it is there, but it's not Eastern time, I promise you. Australia, we've got Canada in the house, Ontario, Canada, New Zealand. And it's great to have everybody with us. Thank you for joining us. I always look forward to these Thursday afternoon calls. They're inspiring. I always seem to pick up a nugget, something new that I hadn't heard before that's been helpful in building a business. I'm grateful for the relationships that we've forged in this business model, and I'm thankful for Steve sharing his time with us. Always look forward, like I said, to these calls. And when I see Steve, I see a man that is purpose-driven in his life, impeccable integrity, and a man that never gives up. He has taught me by his example how to persevere, and I appreciate that much. He is the king of infomercials. He's brought billions of dollars in sales to the table through infomercial sales, and we're so thankful that he had the perseverance to develop this hydrostat technology, which is the most efficient way of delivering nutrients to the cell for immediate cell utilization. So it is my pleasure, as we learn more from Steve, to introduce him to you today. Steve, how are you doing?
Hey, thank you, Michael. And it's welcome, everybody. Hey, Joe Coco, I happen to see you on my screen. You look amazing. I can't believe your skin. You don't look like the guy that I met probably a little over a year ago. Oh, let me blur my screen so everybody doesn't watch my dog. Just a minute. Just got to find the place to do that. Right. There it is.
Steve. We love you, dog.
Yeah. Huh?
We love you, dog.
Yeah, she keeps getting bigger and bigger. She's about 65 pounds, and they say she'll hit about 105 to 110. before it's all said and done. It's a Newfoundland. I knew nothing about Newfoundlands. My wife surprised me. I've been without a dog for 2 years. And Christmas time, Shannon brings home this Newfie, and I was in shock because we had agreed that we were at the age where we didn't need dogs anymore. But she'd see me staring at commercials with dogs in them. And so she just decided to surprise me. And we didn't know that much about this breed, but they are tender, loving. They'd rather be with people than anything else. I mean, we live on a mountain where they could have lots and lots of room to run and explore, and she'd just rather be in the house. And so it's really been a blessing to have her. But Joe, I'm looking at your skin. Honestly, Joe, you look like you're 20 years younger than you were when we met, at least 10 years younger. And I'm not just saying that. I do notice things like that being in the skincare business for so long. For those of you that don't know my story, because I see some new names that I haven't seen before, my name is Steve Scott. And my background was I was a chronic failure. Out of college, I flunked out of 9 jobs in a row in 6 years. Not too many people can top that. I have met one person that topped it, but only one. And but I really wanted to succeed, but didn't know how. And then a dear friend of mine, Gary Smalley, in fact, he was my best friend and my mentor for 43 years. Gary was visiting me right after I lost job number 5. And I said, Gary, I don't understand it. I'm not stupid. I have a good IQ. I'm not lazy. I'm first in, last out at every company I work for, even the big ones. And I understand my craft, which is marketing, and I just can't succeed. Well, Gary, being the wisest man I knew, he was 8 years older than me, said, let me pray about it, and came back in the room the next morning and said, how would you like to be wiser than all your bosses? And I said, yeah, right. And he said, no, there's something you could do. If you do it for 2 years, in 2 years, you'll be wiser than all your bosses. 5 years, you'll probably be a millionaire. And that was really ridiculous because I never earned more than half of the average American wage earner. I had nothing in savings. In fact, I was 26 years old. And the only reason Gary and I had breakfast that day is 2 women from a Bible study I taught had anonymously left groceries on the doorstep. I found out 30 years later who did it. But that's why we were able to eat. And now he says, if I do something for 2 years, I'll probably be a millionaire in 5. That's crazy. Well, he was wrong. I did what he told me, and I was a millionaire in 2.5 years, multimillionaire within 5 years. And but God really blessed my business life. And I had to learn a lot of things during the failure periods that you only learn from failure. And but I started a company in 1976 with another gentleman who, he was the funder. He had $5,000 and I had a vision. 5 months later, in 1976, when gasoline was 39 cents a gallon, our sales hit $1 million a week. And we never looked back. In the next 35 years, we did billions of dollars of sales. We owned products that we owned the patents on, the marketing rights to, and so on, in a bunch of different industries. And we kept applying my marketing formulas that God had given us by doing what Gary said. You see, Gary, what he said was the key. He says, I want you to read a chapter of the book of Proverbs every day. Do that for 2 years. It'll take you through Proverbs 24 times through the whole book of Proverbs. Write down the wisdom and insight you gain and begin to apply those to your work as soon as you are able. And so I started doing that. And in the next 18 months, I just lost job number 5. But in the next 18 months, I went through Proverbs 18 times. And I went through jobs number 6, 7, 8, and 9. And it was job number 10 where we struck oil with a marketing formula, a communication approach that literally sold, well, over 40 million consumers picked up the phone to call to order our products before I retired. In 2008, or 6, I met one of the instructors from the Mayo Clinic who was a board certified in immunology, oncology, and was hematology. And he had his own clinic in Florida, but he taught at the Mayo Graduate School of Medicine during that time as well. And he introduced me to a word that was to change the whole course of my life. And the word was glutathione. Now, I was having a lot of success. Our company at that point was about 35 years old or 30 years old, something like that, 30. And I had been making millions of dollars a year. I had a dream job. I was writing, directing, producing shows and commercials with major celebrities. We had 93 celebrities under contract, Academy Award winners, Oscar winners like Charlton Heston, Cher, Jane Fonda, Holly Hunter. We had Emmy Award winners like Ted Danson, Tom Selleck. We had Burt Reynolds. We had just all these amazing celebrities. I got to work with them regularly. In fact, one of them, Michael Landon, became one of my best friends in Hollywood. I lived in California at the time for a lot of that. And Tom Selleck was a neat guy, Chuck Heston, Charlton Heston. So who walks away from that? And I had partners. It was kind of a family business. Me and one other guy started it, and then our growth exploded. So he brought in his 2 sons and 2 son-in-laws, and we just had an incredible relationship. So I had the best partners I'd ever had, guys that I loved almost as much as my immediate family, and a dream job, and I was making millions of dollars a year. So put all that together, and who would ever consider leaving that? Well, what happened was I found out about glutathione, and this Dr. Keller shared with me some of his clinical studies. We met at Chuck Norris's house. One of my products is called the Total Gym, and Chuck and Christy Brinkley were our spokespersons on the Total Gym. So I was filming a new Total Gym show, and Dr. Keller, I flew Dr. Keller from Florida to Dallas where we were shooting it. So I wouldn't have to break my stride on my production deadlines and so on. And it blew me away. So I started funding glutathione enhancement, and we started writing very big checks. We started a company, bought some patents, and it was a good product, good line, but we were changing lives. You see, as you're going to find out in the next few minutes, glutathione is the most important molecule in life. It's every bit as important as oxygen. There'd be no life on Earth without it. No trees, no plants, no birds, no fish, no people, nothing. We'd have that beautiful blue atmosphere, but we wouldn't have any life. And glutathione is that critical. It's the most studied molecule in medicinal science. Currently, there are over 197,000 published studies cataloged in the Government Library of Medical Studies, PubMed. There are more studies on glutathione than all the other antioxidants combined, including vitamin E, vitamin C, superoxide dismutase, catalase, CoQ10. Add all of the studies on all of those antioxidants up, and they don't equal the number of studies on glutathione. Why? Because glutathione is the key to just about everything. It determines if you'll get sick or not, how fast your immune system can reproduce the assassins, the T cells and B cells, is entirely dependent upon glutathione. Low glutathione levels, the T cells are reproduced slowly, while the bacteria or virus reproduces rapidly. Guess who wins, the bacteria or virus? On the other hand, when you have higher glutathione levels, that your T cells will reproduce explosively in response to the bacterial and viral insult, and you win. So it governs whether or not you get sick, when you get sick, how sick you get, will you recover, how fast you'll recover. All of that immune system is entirely reliant upon glutathione. Pretty crazy. So it's the sole protector of the immune system. What else does it do? Well, it is there'd be no oxygen transfer without it. Why? Well, hemoglobin, when hemoglobin is manufactured in your body, the red blood cell, it contains iron molecules. Now, some of those molecules are positively charged, are a +2, and they can bind to oxygen. But many have iron molecules that are charged at the +3. If they're charged at the +3, it cannot bind to oxygen, and there's no oxygen transfer. It has to be reduced to that +2, and the only reduction agent for the iron molecules in hemoglobin is glutathione. And so without glutathione, there'd be no oxygen transfer. You'd die within minutes, because even though you could get oxygen in your lungs, it wouldn't go any further. It wouldn't go to your brain, your heart, your kidneys, your skin, anything else. You just have an unpleasant death. You actually pass out and then you die. So that's pretty important, oxygen transfer. What else does it do? It is the primary detoxifier. Here, we got to admit these people. It's the primary detoxifier of the cell. Everybody on this call has at least 217 industrial chemicals in your body right now. How do we know? Well, the CDC did a test years ago, in I think this was in 2004, on the umbilical cords of 2,000 women. They had already done a test on 2,000 people, male and female, for 143 industrial chemicals, and every person had all 143. So now they do another study, only this is on the umbilical cords, to see what's not only in the woman, but what's passing along to the baby. And that one, they tested for 217, and 100% had all 217. Now, there's over 85,000 chemicals in our environment, industrial chemicals, so they're not really testing for a lot, but they had no idea that it would be universal. Well, we got to get rid of those if we want to live a long and happy and healthy life. The way you get rid of them is glutathione. Glutathione has this sticky sulfur molecule. It's actually part of the cysteine peptide. Glutathione is a tripeptide made of cysteine, glutamic acid, and glycine. And the cysteine portion has this arm that is a sulfur molecule. And that sulfur is very sticky, like the sticky fly traps or mouse traps that you see, insect traps. And it sticks to the chemical and basically neutralizes that chemical, so it can't have a damaging effect. It actually gets rid of most of it. So it is the detoxifier. On top of that, it's not only the detoxifier of every cell in your body, it's the detoxifier of the liver. The liver is a landfill. It's a dump, okay? It collects all this waste out of your bloodstream and it stores it. Well, that's going to kill the liver unless the liver can detoxify itself. Every liver cell has 1,000 times more glutathione than any other cell in the body. Why? Because it uses glutathione to detoxify itself. And I wish I could tell you some stories, but I'm not allowed to. But just trust me, it is, you don't have to trust me, you can look it up. With 197,000 studies, you can type in the word, go to pubmed.gov, pretty easy, or you can just stay on Google search. Type in glutathione and then you can type in any disease state, injuries, whatever, and you'll see studies come up, not about our product, but about glutathione as the primary, it's really, Dr. Keller was right. He called it the first line of defense for every cell in your body. And what else does it do? As if that wasn't enough. Well, it's best known as the antioxidant, your body's master antioxidant. Now, what's that all about? Every cell in your body, you have roughly 37.5 trillion cells. That's a lot of cells. And everyone is attacked by 10 to 20,000 free radicals every single day. Now, what's a free radical do? Well, it steals an electron from the cell. And when it steals that electron, it creates oxidative stress. That's bad. Oxidative stress means there's too much oxygen for the cell to process, and therefore it creates all sorts of problems. One of the problems it creates is inflammation. It causes inflammation to take place within the cell. And Michael, if you pull up that slide of the cell, we can show you why inflammation's a real bad thing if you have that anywhere. But inflammation mucks up the work, mucks up the works. Here we go. Thank you, Michael, so good. That's a cross section of what a cell looks like. And that's not magnified enough to see things like electrons, neutrons, atoms, molecules, DNA. We don't see that in this. But all of those parts are working together. None of them are stagnant. They're all moving. They're all motion. And when you throw in a plop of mud or inflammation, you gum up the works. The cell can't operate the way it's intended to operate with maximum efficiency and effectiveness. It still operates. Your cells are amazing. They're more complex than the most complex equipment ever created by mankind, which was the most complex machine was the Saturn V rocket with its lunar landing system, lunar module and orbiting module and so on. That's not as complex as the human cell. And inflammation is the mortal enemy. The other thing, oxidative stress, it does two other real bad things. It creates more free radicals. That's not good. So it's a vicious cycle. Free radicals create oxidative stress. Oxidative stress creates more free radicals, and it just grows and grows. Okay, it's a self-feeding cycle that's really bad. But here, nobody likes this one. It accelerates the aging of the cell, the tissues, the organs, and you. So how fast your cells, tissues, and organs, your joints, your bones, how fast they age is dependent on glutathione. Now, here's a reality check. Glutathione, our glutathione production and utilization in the cells declines at the rate of 8 to 15% per decade, starting at the age of 20. Now, if you have a childhood disease, an adolescent disease, a disease anytime before 20, that disease state, such as asthma, all different kinds of disease states, type 1 diabetes, all sorts, it will lower the local stores of glutathione in the organs and tissues that disease state affects. So everybody needs more glutathione. A long story short. Now, the way an antioxidant works, an antioxidant donates one of its free electrons to the free radical. And when that donation takes place, it sequesters or captures, neutralizes that free radical. So the free radical can't do damage. The only problem is there is a spectrum of free radicals. They have different sources. Some are sourced out of oxygen in our body. Some are sourced out of nitrogen. Some are sourced out of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Now, most are sourced, believe it or not, out of oxygen, because oxygen is produced in the metabolic system in your cells, and that metabolic system creates a lot of free radicals. Okay, problem is all antioxidants except glutathione are monofocused. So glutathione, vitamin E can take out that one, but it leaves all of these bad boys. Vitamin C will take out that one, but it leaves all of these guys: CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase. And but none of them will get rid of all of them. All of them will get rid of one type. Glutathione is called the master antioxidant. Now, the best way to think of it is like the master key to a hotel, right? A friend of mine right down the street here owns a bunch of hotels. And, you know, your room key, when you check in, will open your door, but it won't open any other doors. My friend Steve happens to have the same first name, so it's easy for me to remember. He can walk into any of his hotels, and he's got some 5-star hotels, and say, okay, cut me a master key. And they'll make him a little card that's a master key. He can then open any door in the hotel, including the 2 most important doors, the kitchen and the accounting office. Okay, that's a master key. Well, glutathione is called the master antioxidant because it can sequester and neutralize all free radicals, regardless of their source, structure, or chemical composition. It is the workhorse of the cell. Comparing it to other antioxidants are like comparing Mount Everest to boulders and rocks, okay? Now, boulders and rocks are useful. If you've got 50 people chasing you on Mount Everest and you want to roll a boulder down to take them out, that's pretty effective. Even a rock, you know, we saw what David in the Old Testament, King David did when he was a shepherd. He took out a giant with 1 rock. So yeah, rocks are useful. They're not a mountain. Glutathione is the mountain of cellular defense. Now, what's the problem? Problem is it declines every year. As it declines, it opens the gateway, and these are studies, and we've got those studies. You can look them up, but it opens the gateway to almost every major disease class. Dr. Oz put it this way. He's a Harvard heart surgeon, had a TV show here. Dr. Oz put it this way. He said, glutathione, it's the most important antioxidant you've never heard of. It's what protects you from the diseases you fear the most. That's a pretty big statement. Now, the guy that was with him on that show was a guy named David Katz, who was director of disease prevention from Yale University. These guys aren't lightweights. Now, if you go to our NUMMI website, you can click on the About Us and see Medical and Science Advisory Board. You want to bring that up, Michael, if you haven't? You'll see renowned doctors and scientists on that board, and they all serve on that board with no remuneration. So now he's showing you how you do it. Here they come. Okay, that's our newest one. I'm so excited about him. Okay, this is Doug Harrington, for example. He was on the Stanford Heart Transplant team. He's pretty renowned in hematology, cancer, oncology, cardiovascular world. He's brought over 200 therapies to the world in cardiovascular disease and cancer. He was a pathologist. The lady on the right is a renowned cardiologist. She has 7 offices, I think. It's 7 offices in Houston and 1 office in Dubai, where her clients include the royal family of Arab Emirates. She is brilliant. Her comment was, if every cardiologist knew what I know about your product, every heart patient, every diabetic in the world would be on it. Not my words, her words. But you go on down, and so look at this. This guy, okay, Thomas Redner, he created the pain management program for Harvard Medical. James Ho practices in both Beijing and Orange County, MD and PhD from Mayo Clinic. We'll stop going down on this one because this is one I want to focus on. Dr. Nikolopoulos from Greece has recently joined us. He is a brilliant scientist in the area of cellular chemistry and molecular biology. He did all of his education in the United States, but his postgraduate work after he got his degree, not postgraduate, postdoctoral, was at MD Anderson. No, not MD Anderson. Sloan Kettering. Two top cancer hospitals and research centers in the United States are Sloan Kettering and MD Anderson. He was at Sloan Kettering for 6 years in his postdoctoral. He has done recent studies on our program, on our product, that have been amazing. And if we have time, I'll tell you about it in a minute. But meanwhile, and they're related to inflammation and genetic expression of the 9 genes that cause inflammatory response. Did you know lower glutathione levels produce oxidative stress, accelerated aging, inflammatory response. Guess what that does? According to the studies, that opens the gateway to 78 diseases, including, like Dr. Oz says, the ones we fear the most: diabetes, cancer, heart disease, pulmonary diseases, kidney diseases, on and on and on. Lowering glutathione. Okay, now why don't we all go out and buy some glutathione capsules? You can buy them at any health food store because they don't work, by and large. They are, for the most part, you're either getting a capsule, for example, full of glutathione. Glutathione is so fragile, it's destroyed when it hits the stomach, doesn't make it to the cell. Now, the way around that, in the eyes of some manufacturers, is they coat it with a lipid, so liposomal glutathione. Nice thought, but two problems. Number one, it's too big to absorb through the pores in the cells. The average cell is 100 nanometers. The average pore in the cell is only 10 nanometers. Put it in perspective, one strand of hair is 80,000 nanometers thick. Well, you put a coating of fat around a molecule, and now you have a particle that's just too big. It could range anywhere from 50 nanometers up to almost 1,000 nanometers. The pore is only 10 nanometers. So they sit on the cell, and it's very inefficient, but some will get into the cell through what they call forced diffusion. There's just pressure and a little bit gets in. Very inefficient. Un poquito when it comes to efficiency or effectiveness. Well, so to get around that, some say let's get let's get IVs. Glutathione IVs run $200 to $300. You can get a glutathione shot that's not near as effective as an IV for about $80 or $90. Problem is that once that glutathione gets into the cell, which is the whole goal, glutathione from any source, when it gets in the cell, has a half-life of only, on average, 90 minutes. Some cells, its half-life is 10 minutes. Other cells, its half-life is all the way up to 4 hours. But overall, your body's average is 90 minutes. Now, what does that mean? That means you get about a 6-hour bang for the buck, and then you get a tail, much less, I can't do it backwards, okay, much less potency for anywhere from 20 to 30 hours. But during that time, you hardly even experience it, right? But you do get 6-hour bang for the buck. To really be effective, you want to get a glutathione infusion every other day. Very few people do that. We had a surgeon in Miami, Florida, plastic surgeon, was doing surgery 14 hours a day, 5 days a week. He was getting 3 glutathione infusions a week for years, $900 a week. And somebody told him about our product, and he thought, well, surely it's not as good as my infusions, but I'll go ahead and try it. And he went cold turkey off of the infusions, started on ours, and instead of going down in his physical endurance, instead of going down in his mental focus and mental stamina, it went up. He was shocked because ours was under $2 a day compared to $300 a day. He never went back to the infusion. In fact, he called me after about 6 weeks on the product and says, can you come to Florida if I fill my office at night with some other surgeons? I said, sure. Well, there were 42 doctors in the room. He shared his testimony, his wife and his receptionist shared their testimonies. They didn't really need me, but I shared the science. And all 42 doctors signed up that night. So it does have its disadvantages. What we did that was novel, we created a process called hydrostat molecular encapsulation, where instead of encapsulating the molecule with fat, which increases its bulk, we created matrices out of reorganized water molecules, and that's where our molecules rest. Now, it's not enough to protect glutathione through the stomach, but we don't care. Why? Our particle size is so small that it's instantly absorbed into the bloodstream through the mucosa. You swish it like a mouthwash, It absorbs in, and from the time the glutathione actually hits the bloodstream until the time it's completely out of the bloodstream and in your cells is 70 seconds. That is fast. An infusion, once it gets in the bloodstream from a glutathione IV, it takes 26 minutes. Why? That's what one pathologist told me. Because the blood breaks it down into its 3 tripeptides. That's what gets into the cytoplasm, and the cytoplasm has to rebuild using those 3 peptides and through a 100-step electrochemical process, sew them together. And then they have a functioning glutathione molecule. So what we've done is with our hydrostat process, we get very rapid delivery because of our particle size, which is just a little bigger than the molecular level. We go right in and we get a very high, not just absorption, we get a high utilization, cellular utilization. Now, it all sounds good, but is it really true? Enter Dr. Nicolopoulos. He came into my life maybe 4 weeks ago, and he got on our product and saw a huge difference in what he experienced. He said I've been on glutathione for years. I get the most expensive glutathione right out of Europe. And it never did anything for me compared to what this does for me. And then I explained our technology. And he says, well, let me tell you what I'm finding. He says, I have a process that I can look at the expression of genes. And there's 9 genes that I look at that relate to, that express themselves producing inflammation. And in just a couple of weeks with the people I've already tested, the inflammation expression was at a normal level. It wasn't too high, it wasn't too low. If it was low, it came up to normal. If it was high, it came down to normal. He said, he said, I could publish a paper on this right now. That's how novel that is. And so we've started working with him. We're going to be doing some testing. I'm going to be with him. I believe it's the second week in May. They're in Athens, and we're going to lay out testing for the coming year. I'm so excited, I can't even tell you. But when we created it, I knew if we really had what we thought we had, we would make a difference with athletes. Gave it to one athlete who was an endurance athlete. They have a 2-hour workout every night where first hour is running on a treadmill at a 25-degree incline, jumping off the treadmill after an hour, and then jumping onto a rower where he rows with great intensity for another hour. Well, I gave him the product on Memorial Day of 2018, and he called me that night. He said, this is life-changing. And he started going crazy about how it was. We met the next day, and he told me his experience. Woke up, didn't need to stretch, not sore, not stiff. He said, 10 years, this workout always makes me sore and stiff. I have to do yoga, I have to do stretching, I have to use a roller on my legs. None of that. He said, this is really amazing. Gave it to a girl. Well, I'll tell you about the guy first. Gave it to a guy named Bill Gillespie, who was a strength and conditioning coach for an American football team, professional football team. But he was an amateur weightlifter from the time he was 14 years old. Well, Bill will bring up his chart right now and show you this because this is quite remarkable. I called Bill in 2000, and there he is in the middle. You can see him. And I called him and I said, how you doing? And he said, not good. And I said, what's going on now? He set the world record in 2008. He was 49 years old, and he bench pressed 803 pounds, which is about 340 kilos. And from that point on, it started going down. He was losing lean muscle, and you can see the decline. And he said, my lift is in the toilet. It's down to 700 pounds, just a little over 700 pounds. And I said, Bill, for a 59-year-old, that's great. Yeah, it's a world record for a 59-year-old, but I don't get to compete with the elite guys anymore. And so I told him I'd send him our product. I told him how to use it. And here's what happened. In the next 6 months, as a 59-year-old, he went to 915 pounds. As a 60-year-old, he went to 1,050 pounds. And as a 62-year-old at his retirement meet, he bench pressed 1,129.8 pounds or 512 kilos. That's how much a piano weighs. And 40% more than he lifted at 13 years earlier at the age of 49 when he was in his prime. How does that happen? Reduce oxidative stress, reduce the inflammation it produces, slow down the accelerated aging. All of those happen when glutathione goes up. And life is different for every cell, tissue, organ in your body, for your muscles, your joints, tendons, everything. And we have quite a few athletes on the product. One of them was in an accident. She was setting a new record in a 100-mile bike race. When at mile 38, she went end over end, got airborne, hit the pavement so hard it broke her helmet, knocked her out. She woke up in the hospital. Her face hit the pavement at 22 miles an hour. Road rash, scabs, abrasions, cuts. I mean, the plastic surgeon told her it'd take 5 weeks to clear her face. And she got home on Tuesday. The wreck was on a Saturday, and she thought, hey, this stuff is different. I'm going to apply it topically. And she put some on her face on the affected areas. And in 5 days of topical application, Tuesday night once, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 3 times each day with a cotton ball. And her face was completely clear. Not a mark, not a scab, not an abrasion, not a road rash. Clear. The plastic surgeon had never seen anything like it. I owned 5 cosmetic companies in my life with my partners, and I had never seen anything like it. And so I thought, we may have the world's best skincare product. So I put some in spray bottles, sent them to a few ladies that I knew that had been part of a previous company. And I said, you spray your face 5 times a day for 8 weeks. So let's zoom in on this one, Michael, if we can get a little bit closer. This was the first picture that came back to me. She sprayed 5 times a day for 7 weeks. I sent that to my former formulator, who was the president of the American Society of Cosmetic Chemists and become one of the head formulators for the Allergan, which created Botox. When he saw it, he said, Steve, I hate to tell you, she's had a facelift. There's no topical product in the world that can do this. Botox can't do it. And he said, look at how much tighter her face is. She looks thinner. Look at how much brighter. Where did the wrinkles go? I mean, I said, well, she's a farmer, lives on a farm, works on a farm, and that's what it's like. He said, well, you've got something nobody else in the world has. I said, you're right. Let's look and see a few other before and after since then. I was very young here. I was 71. I'm 76 now. I'll be 77 this year in August. But I was 71 here and thought, okay, I'm going to spray my hand religiously at least 4 to 5 times a day. Did it for 12 weeks. And you can see I sprayed my right hand. I didn't spray my left hand. You can see the difference. Next. She's 84. She sprays throughout the day, but she also swishes. Look at her chin, her mouth, her cheeks, her neck. Look at the difference in her neck. And it's crazy. She dropped at least 10 years. Next. This is another lady in Greece, or her daughter is from Greece and is one of our distributors, and Irene. And this lady said, I had old lady legs. She's 84. She says, now I have young lady legs. She sprayed her legs for 10 weeks. Next. This was only 8 days. She's an esthetician, Latino in Miami. She owns her own skincare salon. She said, Steve, Ryan, I can't wait 8 weeks. She said, this is after 8 days. Where did my pores go? Look how much smoother, brighter, tighter. Look at how it opened up my eyes. She said, there's nothing else that does this. And that was encouraging to hear from a professional. Next, she's 60 years old. That's a pretty good improvement in just 4 weeks or a month. Look what happened in 6 months. And this is when we met her. We met her when after 6 months of use, she was 60 years old. She honestly looked, go to the next one. She honestly looks like she's about 42 to 45. And no other product, no other procedure, nothing. Next. We're just going to go through these real fast and we'll be done. He's 67, brighter, tighter, younger. amazing. I mean, one looks like a mugshot, the other looks like a guy you'd go golfing with. So next. That was just 10 days. That's pretty cool. This is 10 days. And she's young. She doesn't need a lot, but look at her pores on the left and how smooth her face is on the right and how even her skin tone is. That's great. That's what you go for in makeup and you usually don't get. Okay, she's 80. She was 80 here. She's the very first picture you saw. This is her mother. And that was after 3 weeks. Look at the difference. Next. Okay, this lady's mid-60s, smoker previously, and of course, smoking's real damaging to the skin. Look what happened. That was in 8 weeks, spraying her face. I would assume at least 4 or 5 times a day. This is 6 days. You can see the difference. Next. We're almost done. This is in Africa. Her daughter's a doctor, gave her the product. Look at that, 4 weeks. Did not swish. She only had the spray. Look how it corrected the melon problem, which is the upper hemisphere of her face. From her cheeks upward, you can see the blackness. That's from mismanagement of melon in the skin. Next. Oh, do we have any more? I think there's 2 more. Here we go. No, okay, next. There we go. He's 94. That's 8 months. He says, I like the new look, but more than that, I feel like the guy on the right, not the guy on the left. And that's what I love most. Okay, one more, I think. Here we are. This lady's in Hungary. We were in Hungary earlier. I guess it was last year, late last year. And look at her. She sprayed 5 times a day for 7 weeks. There's nothing that can do that. So we show you this for 2 reasons, and then we're done. Number 1, we do have the world's best skincare, and it's easy. Number 2, and this is equally important, the same chemical activity, biochemical activity that glutathione does in the skin, it does it in your heart cells, your brain cells, your lung cells, the lining of your lungs, on and on. And that's what we want. And that's what we see. Now, prior to meeting Dr. Nikolopoulos, I could tell you all this, but I couldn't tell you anything about the gene expression. He sends them to me as soon as he gets them. And it is blowing him away and it's blowing me away. We're operating at a genetic level. And he can show that with his testing. And he wants to publish a paper on it. It's so radical. So nobody else has Hydrostat. Is this the only product we have? No. We have other products, but we always use our Hydrostat to get the particle size smaller. We're not shrinking particles. We are separating particle clusters, so you have individual particles, and before they can re-agglomerate, you have about 20 millionths of a second to encapsulate them. Most people encapsulate in lipids or fats. We encapsulate in water clusters. So we have a nice small particle size, goes in, gets in the blood, gets distributed to the cells, and life changes. So that's what we have. The only way we can reach the world are through people that are on this phone and your friends and relatives. Because we manufacture in-house, we're able to keep our costs low. That means a lower selling price, but it also means a better spread for commission. So we have a very generous compensation plan, but more important, we are a price that most people, most families around the world can afford. Are we ever going to improve on our products? Yes, we constantly are doing that. We have a very active lab. It's in our facility. We manufacture in our facility. And then we manufacture, then we put them in 300-gallon containers that we send to the bottler. He tests, it's triple tested for purity and safety. And then bottles get shipped out. So hope you'll consider us if you're a friend. Thank you, all my friends that are on this. I'm not sure if next week is a technology call. If it is, the pitch would be I would basically repeat what I just did. But if it's not, we're going to have connection times. We started that where we can hear from you. We can take your questions. Other people can share what they've seen. And so I'll find out. We announce it over the app and in different ways, right, Michael? And Michael will now tell you about the other meetings that go on. This meeting's weekly when I'm in town. When I'm traveling, I can't guarantee it. Michael?
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Steve. What a great call. And thank you, James, for being our MC.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, right now, if you are brand new, just know that if you go to Facebook and you go to Noomi New You, that's the official group. There's only one company group for brand new people to check out, and that's it, where you can see before and after photographs like Steve showed, testimonials, so much information, so you can go there. And as Steve said, during the week, we have a full week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, 6 p.m. Mountain Time every week. Plus, for the Northern Hemisphere, we even have calls suitable for Europe as well. So check in with the person who invited you. There's not a question in the world you couldn't ask right now that hasn't got a video answer within our free app that the person can send you after this call. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We'll see you on the calls next week. All the best.